your brother Duane, one of the, still rated one of the top guitarists of all time, but he died in a motorcycle accident.
Right. Yes, he did.
Well, tell me about that. That happened in 1971.
Yes, in October of '71. And the Allman Brothers had just come into its own. And matter of fact, we had already recorded Live to Fillmore East, which was rated one of the finest live albums in the history of rock and roll.
The album At Fillmore East has been added to the permanent recordings collection at the Library of Congress as an important part of our country's cultural heritage. It was Duane who first put the Allman Brothers Band together back in 1969, beckoning his baby brother to join once he had the other members in place.
I guess, I don't know, I've heard stories about, well, he put the whole band together and then he called you. I've heard everything from that until, well, you were the only thing left, you know? So he never really told me why he called me, but they literally said, "We'll make you the next Rolling Stones." And man, I laughed at it, and my brother took it serious, and it usually would have been the other way around. You know? He was always the first to face the fire, you know. He was a born leader, he really was.
Your brother Duane?
He really was, yes. And that's made it even harder to pick up and keep going after he passed away, and then Oakley on top of that, the bass player.
Just 1 year after Duane's death, bassist Barry Oakley was killed in an eerily similar motorcycle accident in Macon, Georgia, just blocks from where Duane died. It was a moment of reckoning for the band that had now lost not one, but two founding members.
Everybody, we kind of got in this room together and, you know, what are we going to do now? And I just said, if we don't keep playing, you know, we're liable to wind up on the street, you know, who knows? But, you know, we're never going to find anybody as compatible as we all still are, as what's left of us. Right. And I know that I told him if it had been me instead of him, I know I would have wanted y'all to keep going and keep trying to attain, you know, what we're shooting for here. Sure enough, everybody hung on, and just it felt at times like it gave us more incentive to work even harder, you know.
And I want to offer my condolences on the loss of your mother, which I know happened fairly recently.
Yes, it was July 23rd.
Well, tell me about your mother. What was she like?
Oh, my goodness. She was, well, to give you an idea of what she was like, she was bored, so she bought her a Harley Davidson. And as a matter of fact, Harley Davidson has out a small book that's called Women of Harley, and she's in there. In a bathing suit, you know, and combat boots, and this big 49 Harley, right? She was a pistol. They interviewed her once, and they asked her, they said, "How do you feel about traveling around with your son?" And she said, "Well, actually, we see the asshole of every place and the front end of nothing," you know, because we always enter through the kitchen or, you know, the backstage area. So if you're getting a picture of her here, she was a feisty lady. And I mean, she lived to be 98 years old, died in her sleep. She's one of the good ones, I guess.
We should all be so lucky.
Really, we all should.
While Allman's mother lived a long life, it was just the opposite for his father. A World War II veteran who stormed the beaches of Normandy, he survived the war but faced tragedy back home.
He came home only to pick up a hitchhiker, and the hitchhiker killed him. I was 2 and my brother was 3. So I never knew him. I never knew the feeling of having a father.
Well, you said you were 2, that your brother was 3, you were 2.
We were a year and 18 days apart.
So you have no memory of that time?
None whatsoever. As a matter of fact, when I was in grade school, the first few years, I would go home with like one of my little playmates, and along about 5:30, 6 o'clock, some big gorilla would come in and start pushing him around. And I think, boy, I'm glad I ain't got one of those at home. You know? I said, who is that? And he said, well, that's my daddy. No, one of those, huh? So, you know, I guess you never miss something that you never had, you know. Yeah. But she did a great job of being, you know, mother and father both.
Your father was murdered, shot to death by a hitchhiker. You lose your older brother to a motorcycle accident. You lose your bass player to a motorcycle accident. By your own acknowledgement, you had a fierce battle with alcohol, and you also mentioned heroin, cocaine.
And cigarettes. Don't forget that one. Those were things that happened, and things happen. And you either roll with it or you collapse under it, you know. And I've always been taught to roll with it.
The South is clearly in the soul of Gregg Allman. He loves the food, the hanging moss in the Georgia pines, and even the humidity. We took a walk down to his dock, one of his favorite spots on his property that once was a southern plantation. Well, this is certainly a beautiful spot here.
Oh, yeah. And see, this is real deep. It's about 88 feet out here. Mm-hmm. And this goes around and goes back out to the main.
Oh, no, I see. You
rivers
go
over
around
there.
this way. I see.
Yes.
When you're not making music, and your life is all about making music,
Right.
Anybody who knows you knows that. But when you're not making music, what do you like to do?
Well, I like to do what other people like to do. You know, I like to go camping. I like to fish. I like to be outdoors. I don't know. I'm usually always trying to create something. You know.
Oh, wow, what a nice room.
Thank you.
The plantation house is long gone. Allman built his own home from the ground up, including a mantle full of awards.
This is a lifetime achievement one here. Living Legend Award, they call that one. This one here on the end, this is called a Jammy. Mm-hmm. This is a BAMI, Bay Area Music Award. Right. Jammy, BAMI, Grammy. This is a Hall of Fame, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Right. I tell you, I'm about to run out of space up here. This is
While Gregg Allman is famous for playing a 1960s-style organ on the road, his living room houses a 9-foot grand piano. Well, what are the chances, and I would understand if you want to do it, convince you to tickle these ivories for a minute or two?
I guess I could do that.
Well, it's not exactly an audition.
All right, let me see. Tuesday found me standing on the highway. Seemed like no one was going my way.
Well done. Thank you.
Sure enough.
What's the best thing that's happened to you in your life?
Longevity. Longevity. I remember the first time I ever picked up and held a guitar. And something went off in my brain, and I just was totally just into a trance with this thing. I mean, my mother was worried about me and my brother both. We didn't eat, we didn't sleep, we didn't go out with girls while we just play them damn guitars. And she's like, guys, you know, this is a sickness with y'all. And many times she'd come in, we'd both be in our beds with a guitar on, right? Because we'd fallen asleep playing it. And I don't think I ever really wished for fame. Music just does it for me. Well, it just really does.
As I absorbed
and longevity I'm talking about it seemed like for most of my life, I have been a well-respected entertainer.